Hello everybody, and thanks for tuning in. We have another video here, and if you're new here, why not click that subscribe button? It's just down there so you don't miss anything. You'll get notifications in your subscriptions on YouTube. This is the Diatone Crusader 130, and after flying the GB190, kind of a bigger full-sized feature, I couldn't wait for this to arrive. I've been looking at this for some time. If you follow Banggood's new items page, I guess you'd call it, I think Hobby King actually says that, but anyways, the new items, this has been listed as coming soon for the longest time. And I'd visited Diatone's website, and it showed it there that it was available but out of stock. So I kept bouncing back and forth and waiting, and finally the notification came in that it was in stock, so I clicked the button and I got one. And this is what we see in the kit. Looks like battery straps and flight controller cables and connections, are nylon lock nuts for our props here. Silica gel. Throw it away, do not eat. Looks like we've got some little standoffs here and some more screws. We must have some assembly to do, right? Here are the motor protectors. I don't actually plan on putting these on. I know it can add some protection, but I think it also adds some frustration with getting your props on and off. And if you break props like I do, you need to do that fairly often. And it just adds weight. And in the micro arena, weight is pretty important to our flight experience. And then we've got how many sets of props, and looks like prop adapters. We shouldn't need those. Looks like just one set of props. And they are 3 by 4 or 5. And they are Diatone props. Diatone HK. Here, let's get one out so you can see that a little clearer. I'm sure that packaging doesn't make it easy to read. There's the Diatone on there. And then our prop size. Okay, and then we've got the pod, as I call them. I don't know what the actual names are. Features some LED lights. And a camera that I suspect is a CMOS camera, but we'll figure that out. Does come with a antenna, circular polarized, I presume. Oh, I'm not going to be able to just pop this one open all the way. Maybe. There we go. 3-leaf, right hand. It looks okay, but we'll always have to test these things to see how they fly. It is nice that they included one. Oftentimes when we buy these kits, you get nothing. And here is this little guy. And what it says right on that sticker. Okay, we don't need the box anymore. Let's get zoomed in so we can take a little closer look. Before we get too far along, let's go ahead and take some measurements in this carbon fiber to see what we're dealing with here. Got my calipers out. Oh, moved it around. Alright, let's see what we got. Looks like we got a 3mm bottom plate. This bottom piece is not carbon fiber, so we're not going to measure that because that won't help us much. Let's see what these side plates, 1.5. Depth between here, I'm sure you want to know to see if you can get a different camera in there. Looks like that's 33 millimeters inside. It's not very tight though, so these things haven't been tightened down. Make sure you do that if you get a kit. And let's see, let's go, make sure we're still at 0. Let's get an estimation of how much clearance you might have between where you mount your camera mount and about where that support post comes in there. Let's see, what is that? So about 44.8 is the distance between there and this rod right up here. Let's take this off. Are these standard mounting holes? Yeah. So normal sized FC and VTX. And let's see what else came in the box that we didn't take a very close look at. Turn those off. Those are wanting to stay on there. Okay, got them off. So we have actually a kind of nice introduction series here, or Crusaders series. French. But this is a pretty full-featured little book here, really. It's printed really small, but I can read it. Tells you a little bit about the flight controller. Oh, the motors, let's see, I forget. These come with the BX series, 1306 3100 kV, so I've flown these before, but they have a Diatone label on them, but I think they're actually DYS motors. So Diatone just slapped their brand on there. Now it does say, I thought this was interesting, so on these ESCs, hopefully you can see this, it says D20 and then it says one shot 125, but down here it says F330 max 30 amp. So I don't know what those ESCs are just yet, but one thing I don't care for is how they're mounted on here. I will fly it initially like this, but I think long term I'm going to make some slight changes. See how this one's sticking so far up. I'm not really crazy about that. I would want to bring this back down. This separation is just going to, if you have a crash in a tree or you get hung up in a tree, it's sure not going to help it come out of the tree, but it sure might rip it out if you come flying through a tree or something. And you can see all these ESCs are kind of up off the carbon fiber arms, and they use zip ties. I will probably shift these around a little bit to try to get them down. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to or not. These are so tight, but at the very least I might take some silicone tape and just wrap them around so that something can't get in there, just to help ensure that they don't catch a branch on the way by and get ripped off or something, or extra hook to get us hung up in a tree. You can see we've got our XT60 back here, and we've got a buzzer, so that's a nice touch. You don't always find buzzers. Sorry, I got sidetracked on the manual here. Motor for specifications, main PDB. So you have all sorts of information here, and they did a nice job. Looks like by default the motors are using stick arming. Talks about clean flight. So we can go in there and customize that. And it shows pictures here of the BL Heli Suite, so it must be using that. And in their pictures, they show the version, I think, let me take off my glasses, 16.0.14.5.0.1. So it should have dampened light on by default. Limited warranty, legal ease stuff. This looks like, oh, this is nice. It's color. Gives us a little circuit layout. There's a PDB that you really can't hardly see. It's down here at the very bottom. You can see that the ESC is connected to it, and then the flight controller is connected to the PDB with this wire. You can also see another one down there. It's probably connecting the ports together for some sort of functionality, LEDs, beeper or something. Tells you how to put your battery strap in, but oddly enough they don't have one assembled. And they say here that that PDB board, or a board below the PDB, is actually glass fiber. Well, this is full installation. If you got a kit, they must produce a kit of this, but I haven't seen the kit version around anywhere. But we'll need this. This pod should just slip on the top, shouldn't it? Shouldn't it just go on here? But down? Okay, well, we'll get that sorted out. Also in the box, they sent a package of stickers. I love stickers. These are kind of fancy. See that red? I wish the bits and pieces that we had on here matched this red. It's kind of nice, kind of flashy. And we've got some Crusader stickers we can stick on our stuff. I like that. And then they have a whole sheet about the VTX. This is the SP2, which is right here on the board. Take off this little cap. So we've got our connector, our LED. Says it's 25 to 200 milliwatt. We have a button here, but I don't see a switch to change it. But surely we can figure that out. It's got lights right here. Let me get a pointer. Something small here, of course. We've got lights right here. If you can see that, that's for the 25 milliwatt, and this is for the 200. And I'm wondering if button presses activate those back and forth. So that's kind of nice. So if your legal limit in your area is 25 milliwatt, you can safely run that and stay within the regulations. Pretty much everything else SMA connector you would expect. Okay, so how do we get this connected? Now, we also have this that we need to connect. I suspect it goes right into this port right here, because otherwise it would be connected down there. But I'll read the instructions and we'll get this thing together. Okay, I found the first thing to draw your attention to. So they assembled this kit to a degree and they sent it to us, but you pretty much have to disassemble it. There's no two ways about it. You can't get this thing on there without taking the camera out, just as like it says in the instructions. You've got to take these two top pieces that were sitting on these posts. You've got to take those off because it's holding everything together. And then, of course, the long screw that goes through there falls out, and then the little standoffs between are free to fall and go all over the place. As you'll find in the manual, if you get one of these, and you can probably download it from Diatone's website as well. Here's a look at the flight controller. Hopefully you can see that and not get too much of a glare. So if you're going to run different receivers, it should work just fine. VBAT's connected, so we should be getting something through there. And then we've got our port down here, and it's a Spectrum right here, and it kind of has the square like a port, right? Apparently that drawing they made here is just to show you where the line was, because it actually doesn't even say anything on the top side of the board. It just has 3 holes. But if I can get this around, you can see that. Now it has Spectrum. So I'm going to be using one of the Lemon satellites that I use oftentimes. So I'm going to have to get that hooked up before I go any further. So if you're doing this at home, take pictures as you're going along. This will help, but taking pictures, that's also a good thing, because that's how you originally got it. So I am going to solder up one of my Spectrum receivers and try to get this thing back together again. At first glance, I didn't think much of it. You know, I have had to solder on these leads before. But as I look closer at this, this is really, really tight. So make sure you have a clean soldering tip. Diatone, if you're out there, put the port on. I don't know why it's not there anyways. It would have been just so easy for them to put the port on for us, so we don't have to solder that down. You might be asking, why didn't you go from the top? I just prefer to go from the bottom for some reason. I don't have any logical reason for that. It's just typically on these F1 boards or F3 boards, you do have to go from the bottom because there aren't any solder points on top. So that's the first thing you should know. If you're a Spectrum user out there, you're going to have to do some fine soldering to make this work. Otherwise, you're going to need to use a different receiver. Alright, next glitch. Let's see. I should have kept that page open. Where was it at? So it says right here to install the 3.5 millimeter aluminum spacer, which if you look all the way to the back and you look at this picture, the bottom 2 spacers look the same, and then the taller one on top. Ah, easy peasy, right? Well, there are 3 different size spacers that came off of mine. This is going to be kind of fidgety to line up, but 3 different sizes. So I'm going to have to do some trial and error, and the next time you see these spacers, they'll be on here, and then I can update you on which one goes where. Stepping through this wire connection, it's a bit confusing because the instructions are written for all the different kits that are the same form factor, but they have different PDBs in them, and they're labeled here in the instructions. Let me get this out. So we've got 130 and 165 main PDB, and then we've got the 190 and 225 PDB. And then we've got the 130 and 225. Again, 130 is listed twice here. And we got the 190 and 225 PDB. So everything's listed twice. So be careful what you follow. Mine was not connected properly according to this. And this keeps referring to the SP1, and this has an SP2 in it. So, something you need to be aware of. This is the one that I am following, because it matches everything that I've got as far as the connectors and the wiring. They do send you extra connector bits. They're nice silicone wire. I'm not sure what these are for, but they're in there as well. You've got a complete set, plus you've got all these. Unless you have a special need for these, you might not need those either. So if you take a close look at this, I've got everything wired per this diagram, and I'll just show it to you here because then I'm going to have to take it apart and I'm going to have to run the wires underneath the pod in order to make sure I don't have any prop strikes on the wires. So I'll try to keep that in shot so you might be able to see that as we go through this. And I've got the side plate open just to make things clear. So we've got our LEDs, and that I have connected to the center. But if we look at our LED, it says over here, well, I would have to have the LEDs pointing in to make this wire reach. I actually tried to make it reach. Where'd that one go? So I tried to make it reach, and I ended up pulling one of the wires out. So that's no good now. I'm down one set. So you can try. Maybe yours will be a touch longer. It's, only a couple millimeters too long, but it doesn't connect straight down. It goes like this, so it has to go across. Hopefully that's clear in what I'm showing you here. Maybe that was out of shot here for a minute. Let me get this back in. So you can see this wire, per the diagram, is supposed to go clear over here. Well, it doesn't reach. So the best possibility I can go is here. And according to the instructions, these are 12 volt, both of them are, so it should not matter. Now that's VCC, so that's battery, and this has got a 12 volt pin and a VCC pin. So that's one thing that you need to be aware of when you're putting yours together. Next, the wire that goes from the PDB goes into a second PDB, which is where all this stuff is routed. And then you have this special connector, and I'll show you what it looks like outside. So it's got this little clip that plugs in. That goes directly here into the side. And then it comes up here. Let me get these wires out of the way. And you've got this line that goes into this connector for the camera. And then you've got this power, which is actually supposed to be in the middle, but because it does reach, I put it in the far side. And I hope that that is still connected. So that's how those things are connected. Be sure that you do yours the same. And now I'm going to take the pod off and route these wires underneath, because if I put this stuff all back on, this stuff would just be hanging out here and would likely get chopped. So I'm going to have to route it underneath the pod. So I'm going to do that here. That's not entertaining to watch, so I'll do that off camera. I've now got it all back together. A few things to note. If you want to take a closer look at how I routed the wires. These, let me get my pointer back out. These go down between the post. This goes around, and then in the back side between the VTX here, comes up, and then back in here. So this is actually, you can see, it's pretty snug even in the slot I've got it in. I suppose if it pulls loose, I'm going to have to find something somewhere else, or I'm just not going to be able to use the LEDs. The antenna also, when you put it in, it's a little bit of a challenge because you have to bend it way down here at the neck, and then you kind of need to hold it in place while you screw this in, and you can use a tool to screw that in, but don't crank on it too tight because it is connected right down here, and you can get quite a bit of torque when you're running around this way on that base. I know I haven't taken care of this yet. I figure I'll put it up in the pod here somewhere, maybe stick it to the top or back of the camera. This is where our GoPro goes, right up in here, and you run the strap around this metal rod. All this metal to metal, we really need to use some thread lock on it, some blue thread lock, and you know, we've got metal on metal here. Even our 4 main posts are metal on metal. We do get 2 sets of the brackets that secure everything and bring the pod together. We do get a set of nylon lock nuts that are orange colored, as well as some silver and blacks. They are both flanged, as you can see there. Take a look. Well, I really can't get a really good shot. Hopefully I can get an angle on this. But as I previously discovered, I had 3 different sizes of standoffs. And so I went to the extra bags of, we've got a complete extra set of standoffs, or spacers, I guess they are. And so I had some that were, I think, 2.5, and then 3, and then 3.5. These are the 3 millimeters, and then this one is the 3.5 millimeter. And that's how I chose to put it together. The other ones that I got in there that were less than 3 millimeter, I don't think they belonged in there. I think that was either a mismanufacturing on the part of the height of those, or they just belong in another kit possibly that they're working on. The LEDs are switchable by this dip switch here, and they are labeled here, blue, red, green, 12 volt. I'm not sure why that 12 volt's even labeled, because it has to be 12 volt. 12 volt here, 12 volt down there. And you can get other colors by mixing and matching, and they cover that in the instruction sheet if you want, like magenta. But they do warn you that there are certain colors that consume more power than other colors, and they also state that these LEDs do get quite warm, so not to leave them on for a long period of time if you're not actually flying. The battery strap, you know, honestly, I think if you break this, you're hosed. I don't know how they got it in there. Let's look at the instructions. So they make the battery strap look like it just loops underneath this bottom PDB bit. But I don't know about you, but unless they've got... Oh, they do. They have the frame notched out. That's how they got it so flat. So if you break the PDB, you've got to pull everything apart, and I think that PDB is actually glued to this frame a little bit. So if we break that strap, got a complete disassemble on our hands, or at least, yeah, we'd have to take out all the bolts at the very least. We shouldn't have to disconnect the ESCs. As you can see right up here, they've notched out the belly of that. That could compromise the frame in a certain degree, but hopefully, because it's so far in the center, it won't be an issue that we get a breakage here or break here. So I think I'm done with the assembly side of things. I think I've got all my wires, and it should be safe. I've got the I do have some thread lock in there, and then I wiped it down afterwards. I need to take care of my VTX, and then we can go test fly it finally. They do recommend 3S batteries for this. The motors, oddly enough, in the specifications are rated 2 to 3S, but I'm pretty sure these are the BX 1306s, just like I have here from DYS. BX 1306 3100s. This is the same thing there. So they should be fine on 3S. The ESCs are rated up to 4S according to their own specifications. Let's weigh this real quick. Got my handy dandy scale out here, and we'll compare it to the Q Carbon, and we'll compare it to a few other micros in this same space as far as dimensions go. Let me see if I can get this to stay put. I'll do this. So on their site, they show a picture of a scale, and they have it at 144 grams. I have 200 grams. So with the battery, even 130 millimeter, we're going to come in over probably. Let's say we run this nanotech here, 450 mAh, so half the size that they recommend. Oh, we're just coming in under 250 grams. Okay, but if you put an 850 gram battery on there, you're definitely going to be over 250, or not, an 850 milliamp battery on there, you're going to come in a lot heavier. So this one's 200.9. My Q carbon, 129.5. My FlexRC Frog. I don't even have the lock nuts on here now that I think about it. The Frog here, 126, so very comparable to the Q carbon. And the Taro, I'm not sure if I can get this one on there without it, 90.6. So this is quite a chubby little guy for something in this space, but maybe the form factor, geez, I got all sorts of stuff out here. Maybe the form factor itself will make up for the weight. I have my doubts about whether this is carbon fiber or if this is G10 or some other sort of fiberglass. If you can see there, it's awful shiny. If you compare that to the Q carbon here, I don't know. You got my voltmeter out and I couldn't. My voltmeter wouldn't. I didn't have it set up or working right. Something was going on there. I couldn't get any readings on it. But I have my doubts about this being carbon fiber. But let's get it finished, set it up, take it for a little quick line of sight test, make sure everything works properly, and then we'll FPV this thing and see what the image quality is like and how much fun it can be. Now I've just got a little 3S with an adapter here. I'm going to run it like this because I don't think running a big fat 3S battery is going to give us good results. Now let's see if it'll arm. There's air mode. Okay. So these are stock PIDs. No tuning at all. Betaflight 291. Those bullnose props are noisy. Let me bring it in close. I'm going to give it a fairly hard punch here. And you can definitely feel the weight. I mean, it's nice and stable. It's responsive. But when it comes to thrust, you can feel the weight. 100 grams. Alright, let's... So if you're going to be doing any acrobatics with this, it's going to impact it. Whoa, lost it. Well, let's try again after that crash. No, it won't arm now. Oh, my stick is up. Let's go out here a little bit further so it's not so far away from me. Did you hear that beep? I think that might have been low voltage already. That's a really short flight. Watch the lights when I hit it hard. I'm gonna bring it in close so you can see those lights. It's kind of cool. Boy, it just doesn't recover very well from those flips. And the response on the throttle is kind of delayed. Alright, getting warnings, better land it. I don't do hand landings. I need my fingers for my work. FPV in here now, and we're gonna just take it for a little spin around the backyard like I normally do. The reception seems kind of bad, and I'm not sure if it's the antenna or if it's just the high humidity of the day. We've got a storm rolling in, but I had time to go for 4 flights this particular occasion. Actually, something about the camera is it's actually there's no sun to be found. Unfortunately, that doesn't mean we get to test the ability of the camera to adjust for changes in light, but it does give us the chance to see how it performs in poor light conditions, because it's actually pretty dark right now. Actually had to wait on my first flight probably, I don't know, 10 or 12 minutes for all the equipment to adjust from being in the air-conditioned house and wiping the condensation off the lens and off my screen on the goggles. You can kind of tell the True X gives it that agility on pitch and roll, but unfortunately when you yaw, if you yaw very hard, you lose quite a bit of altitude. To counter that, you have to really hit with the throttle hard, and you can see that how I kind of dipped down, how it almost feels like it's sitting, like right there. It kind of sat down as I yawed around, and that wasn't even a hard 180. It does fly pretty well as far as, you know, its agility. It controls on default PIDs. It didn't even bother tuning this, really. I probably will in the long run try to get some more out of it by tuning it, but it flies alright on Betaflight 291, and I found that on another quad that I put 291 on, and it flies pretty good with the defaults. Just turn your rates to what you want them to and go out and have some fun. This flight, if I remember correctly, is not quite 3 minutes. And with the same battery on my other quads, I can get 4 to 5 minutes of flight. So that extra weight that it has to tow, it shortens your flight, and you also notice it on the throttle stick on how you're up on the upper end of the curve, so that you can maintain the height that you need. I think doing hard punch outs with this it's not going to be very good. It's not going to be anything like you can find with some of the pro pilots in their videos. You're just not going to be able to, well, you will, but it's just going to be really slow. And there I try to do a roll, and I forget I didn't have air mode on. So I went low throttle, and it just, blap. That's the end of the video. Let's head back to the desk. Back at the desk here, and I guess final thoughts. I think if you want this form factor and this size, and you want something that you don't have to solder and directly build, this is kind of a piece together kit. Even though it kind of comes assembled in 2 parts, you may have to work the wiring like I did. But it's pretty. The instructions are very good. You should be able to follow those and get yourself up and flying. I think if you're looking for something in the micro that weighs similar to other micros and has the same sort of flight characteristics, this probably isn't going to be for you. Diatone needs to do some work. They need to bring the weight down. There's just no 2 ways about it. This thing weighs 200 grams, and it's got 1306 motors, and it flies. It flies fine once you get going. It flies a little bit like a brushed micro, really. Brushed micros have a little bit of a harder time changing vertical altitude or changing hard direction. I think they've tried to do something here, but I think we would be better off right now building one our own. Unless you don't want to do any soldering, you don't want to have to select parts and put one together, this would be a very good kit for anyone that fits that niche, that wants to just kind of piece things together and then go. I mean, the only soldering I had to do was the receiver, and that's because I used the Spectrum. If you're using something else, you'll probably just be able to plug it right into one of the ports or one of the wiring kits that we get. I think Diatone needs to work on bringing the weight down substantially, and I think they can start with using carbon fiber. I believe this is G10 or something else, which is all the glass fiber frames are typically heavier than carbon fiber, at least when I looked at them here years ago. They were always substantially heavier. Carbon fiber, it's just hard to beat the weight to strength. With all the integration, I kind of expected there to be an OSD. Even though the specifications don't list the OSD at all, I thought there might be. You know, we've got everything connected here, and we've got this, you know, SP2 VTX that Diatone definitely believes in. They talk about it all over the place. Oh, I'll give you one other little bit. If you have one of these and you're looking for the difference between 25 milliwatt and 200 milliwatt, if you long press this button for 5 seconds, there's a light over here. There's actually two lights right over here. If it's red, it's 200. If it's blue, it's 25. I looked that up because the video wasn't great, and I thought, well, let's try the other one, and it didn't improve. So I just left it where it is. So you can find this on Diatone's website. You can buy it from Banggood, and I think RC also carries this if you want to look into the kit, and I'll leave the links to this product where I got it down below. If you have any comments or questions or suggestions, please leave those down in the section below. And I look forward to building a kit that's like this, but with individually selected parts, and that will be coming in the coming weeks. I've got a frame on the way already, and I've got motors and ESCs and flight controller. I've got everything, but maybe, no, I got the camera too. Everything's ready, just got to wait for it to get here. And then we'll do another build video. Alright everybody, thanks for watching.